when I was in college, actually, my major was sculpture. That was my emphasis. I hardly did any painting at all in college. And I think actually my drawings and paintings have a very sculptural quality. I approach them as objects in space that I'm making. I don't think about them in two dimensions, even though they are two-dimensional. But I think of myself as an object maker that works with paper and ink, or paper and pencil, or paper and India ink. I'm constantly turning the paper, moving it around, working with both hands.
Welcome back to Beyond the Palette, the Art Dimensions podcast, your one-stop shop for contemporary art leasing and sales. We're back in the podcast groove after a long break, and we've got new music by the talented Kobe Brown, brand new interviews, and we're dropping on the second Wednesday of every month. I am so excited to be talking with Mike Reinis today. Mike is an old family friend who I've known for years, and when I discovered that he was an amazing artist, I was thrilled. So naturally, Mike is now a new artist on the Art Dimensions roster. Mike's drawings are remarkable. They are contemporary, intricate, and well, just cool. His work makes a statement in any setting, home or office, or set. The coolest aspect is that these drawings are done solely by hand, and they are simply mesmerizing to look at. There's a lot to learn about Mike, and I'm excited to give you listeners a glimpse into his creativity and process. Hi, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, Whitney. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. I know you've got your own construction business, kids, and a drawing practice, and the listeners and I appreciate it greatly.
Of course, happy to be here.
Happy to have you. All right, let's go. What are you up to these days in your studio?
I have been working a lot with acrylic paint pens. I would say the past year or so. They are a medium I discovered somewhat recently, and I've been really enjoying those. Some are made by this company called Posca, others by Molotov, and I've been working with those mostly.
Are you working on larger drawings, smaller drawings? Is there a specific series you're working on now?
I think I just finished a series. I never really know, but I did several quite large drawings, or at least large for me. They are like 30 by 40. They
Oh,
take
wow.
quite a bit of time, and but I like working large. Typically, I've worked smaller, like 15 by 20 or 20 by 30, but I've been wanting to work larger for some time. So I did these three very large drawings. And I think I'm going to maybe do one or two more, but I'm also thinking about getting back into painting, which I haven't done in some time.
Oh, wow. Okay. And painting with acrylic paint or oil or
Gouache, actually. I've
okay.
painted a lot with gouache over my lifetime. It's a material that I really like working with. I don't know how familiar you are with it. It's not that common, but it's like opaque watercolor. It's
Right.
water-based, but it doesn't have the sort of plastic-like quality that acrylic paints sometimes have. It has sort of a matte finish, and I feel like it's really rich. And so anyhow, I've been actually doing some small drawings lately, thinking that I'm going to turn these into paintings, gouache
Oh,
painting.
I can't wait to see that. That's awesome. Well, can you give our listeners a brief sort of synopsis of your journey to where you are today as an artist?
So, I grew up in Los Angeles with you, and I was surrounded by art my whole life. My mother is an artist. She does still life and figurative art. She took us to art shows growing up a lot. We had a lot of beautiful art in our home. So it was something familiar to me. I took a lot of art classes growing up. In high school and college, I got more serious about art, and I really found my voice in art. I took a class at UCLA Extension in printmaking when I was 15 or 16, and then the following summer, I took a class at the School of the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. Both of these were college level classes. They were very demanding, and The teachers were very tough on me, but at the end of the courses, I remember feeling very acknowledged and feeling like I had really found something that was important and special to me. And so I went to college and studied fine arts. I graduated from UC Santa Barbara, the College of Creative Studies at UC Santa Barbara in the early 90s. After that, I moved back to Los Angeles. I immersed myself in the art world in LA. I got a proper studio loft. I sent my slides to gallery owners. I worked for an artist. I worked for Guy Dill in Venice, who I know you know.
I know Laddie. I actually have never met Guy, but my mom knew Guy. So yeah.
Right. I remember running into your mom at Guy's studio quite a few
Oh,
times. I have
nice.
great memories of that. And so I worked in the art world in many respects. I put on shows of my work and my friends' work. Uh, I entered competitions. I played that whole game. In my late 20s, I started working in art and architectural conservation, and I learned a lot about that world. And I worked for a couple great companies and got to work for some great collectors and museums. And then in my 30s, after I got married when I was 27 and started having kids. My life sort of started to transition into being more of a family man, and the pressures of being the breadwinner sort of pushed me out of the art business, or made me focus more on construction and development, which is what I do now. And art became something that I did in the background. And for 10, 12, 15 years, I continued to keep an art practice and loved to draw and paint and make work, but I essentially did not share it with anybody. I would make a drawing, stick it in the flat file, and then move on to the next one. And I basically had no contact whatsoever with anybody in the art world, with any galleries, until about 4 or 5 years ago, when actually it was during COVID. There was a series of events that sort of got me re-energized in terms of the art business. One of them was COVID, obviously, and being isolated and being at home a lot and thinking a lot about uh, my art practice. Another was the fact that my kids are just getting older now, and I've got more time on my hands. That's a big one. And then another factor was that we were remodeling our house, and I was going through my studio and all of my artwork, and seeing all this artwork that I was very proud of, and I had this strong feeling that I wanted to start sharing it more. I put on a show of sorts during COVID, refocused on getting my artwork out into the world and working with amazing people like you.
Oh,
So that's basically it in a nutshell.
was that show that you had that you just mentioned, was that at the home in Baldwin Hills?
No, it wasn't. So what that show was I had started a series of drawings on postcards, and my goal was to make 100 postcards and then send them out to family and friends. And then I sort of lost steam on the project, and I discovered when I was doing this studio move, it was during COVID, or maybe it was 2019. Yeah, it was right when COVID started. I found these drawings. I had completed 74, and I thought, you know what? There's no better time than the present. That's one of the lessons we all learned from the pandemic. And so I organized the drawings. I created a poem that I stamped on the back of every single one that basically said this is a series of 74 drawings. I sent them out to everyone, and I also uploaded them to Instagram, which is something I also discovered somewhat recently, is that this is a marketing tool and not just social media. And so it was a both a virtual show, and it was also an in-person show, but it was for people, it was in person in their house because they received the art in the mail and they were
Right.
able to touch it and hold it. And then also they were able to see their work on Instagram along with the whole series. And so it was sort of this combination in-person virtual show. And it was a way for me to really start or restart getting my work out there.
Who are some of your greatest influences?
Well, in terms of art, I would say my greatest influences are Richard Diebenkorn, Matisse, Ed Ruscha, Rauschenberg, Helen Frankenthaler, Jasper Johns, Frank Stella. A lot of these artists were introduced to me by my mom.
Hmm.
I studied Brancusi or Brancusi, I think it's properly pronounced, the sculptor in college, and his work moved me, and so did Donald Judd, who's probably directly influenced by Brancusi. Those are probably my core artists that I was influenced by. But since you brought it up, I do want to mention, because this is so recent and fresh in my mind, that I saw a show in Sweden about a month ago at the Modern Museum there by an artist named, and I'm probably mispronouncing her name, Brita Merikat Laba. She's a Sami artist, which are native or indigenous people that live in the north of Sweden. And this was absolutely one of the greatest art shows I've ever seen. It blew me away. I became an instant fan, and she's not hugely well known, but she did have a solo show at the museum there. And so I've been looking at her work a lot lately.
Is it sculpture? Is it painting? Is it drawing?
It's drawings, paintings, and a lot of textile work. She does a
Okay.
lot of like sewing onto fabrics, and a lot of it
Hmm.
is about the Sami culture. And it's just really gorgeous and lush and beautiful. I'll send you a link to her work. I think you would enjoy it. But it
Thank you.
was so nice to go see work that blows you away. And that continues to happen as I get older. But it just happened a month ago again. And I was like, this artist is incredible. It really was a wonderful show.
Oh, it sounds amazing. I will put that in my blog. And also, I want the listeners to know you can see Mike's drawings at artdimensionsonline.com. Do you believe that creativity is something you're born with or something you're taught?
I think all people are born with creative abilities. Now, that being said, creativity also has to be nurtured, it has to be prodded, it has to be practiced. It's not something to be taken for granted. I also think that people are born with different skill levels. Some people are born with perfect pitch. Some people, like me, are tone deaf. Some people are born with really advanced abilities to draw from still life, and some people have to learn that. None of these things makes for a successful artist necessarily, but I think that you do have to work hard to be creative, and I think you do have to work hard on your skill set, no matter how talented you are when you come into this world. And creativity and technique are crucial in making successful art. I really believe that both need to be practiced regularly.
I agree. I agree. I believe that you're born with creative skill, or creativity, but you have to nurture it, you have to garner it, you have to work on it.
Yes.
Really. So it's nature and nurture.
Yeah, we all know the kid in high school who was like the best artist in the class, or the who was incredible at making art. And a lot of times they just grew up that way. And I remember in high school I was intimidated by some of those kids, and I thought I could never be a successful artist because look at her or look at him. They're amazing. But looking back, you see that some of these people, they never really nurtured their skills, and they never really grew beyond that initial ability. So it really is something that there's a reason we call it a practice, and that's because
Yeah,
it's something that we're continually working on.
exactly. Exactly. Why drawing for you rather than another medium, such as photography or sculpture? I mean, I know you're getting into the painting soon, but
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Really, it's about the immediacy and the results that I get from drawing. I've always had limited time and space, and so I want to get quick results. And I know if I sit down to draw that, within a few hours I can make significant progress. Whereas if I wanted to do, a huge mural, I just don't have enough time in my life right now to dedicate, 40 hours a week to a larger project. I can see as I get older doing larger works and doing sculpture. When I was in college, actually, my major was sculpture. That was my emphasis. I hardly did any painting at all in college. And I think actually my drawings and paintings have a very sculptural quality. I approach them as objects in space that I'm making. I don't think about them in two dimensions, even though they are two-dimensional. That I think of myself as an object maker that works with paper and ink, or paper and pencil, or paint paper and India ink. I'm constantly turning the paper, moving it around, working with both hands. And so I could see myself getting into back into sculpture one day as well, because I think with my hands, and sculpture really lends itself to that.
Yeah. And I want to mention your drawing series. Some of them I have on my website there. You used gel, well, I don't know what kind of pen, maybe it was the acrylic pen, but they're color drawings and they really are intricate, and I can feel almost how you turn the paper as you're creating the piece of art. I
Yeah,
mean, the lines, well, people just have to check it out, but the lines are so intricate and detailed and going, it's like a maze almost to look at your work. So I love it.
thank you.
What's your favorite aspect about being an artist, and what's the hardest part?
Well, my favorite aspect is the wonderment, and the is like making something and going, wow, where did this come from? I love losing myself in my work and then stepping back from it, and recognizing that it's successful, or seeing the beauty in it, but not really knowing how I got there. That motivates me quite a bit. I also find art making meditative and therapeutic. So for me, it's a spiritual outlet and very important to me. It's a way where I feel like I can be heard. The hardest part for me is the business side of things. It's the self-promotion, it's the marketing, it's the putting myself out there. That's something that I'm working on.
Do you like working alone?
Yeah, I do like working alone. I don't, in business, I like working with people. But when I'm making my artwork, I like to work alone. I might have something to do with the fact that I grew up with four siblings in a busy house, and there was always a lot of activity and commotion, and maybe art is a little bit of a refuge for me. But for me, it's solitary time. When I was in college, I worked on a film. I was the art director, and films are incredibly collaborative processes, and I respect them tremendously. But for me, it was like really head spinning that I was just a small piece of a much larger vision.
Mhm. Part of a team.
Yeah.
So which do you like better? Or are they equal to you, working with people and a team or working independent?
Well, definitely when it comes to my art, I like being independent. I can't say I was listening to yeah, I've been listening to your podcast quite a bit, and you asked this question or a similar question to another artist about collaborating, and I thought immediately, wow, I don't know if I could. It would be tough for me to collaborate with another artist. I've done it in the past, but I don't know if it's that interesting to me. But in terms of work and business, I think it's important to work with other people, and have other people to bounce ideas off of. But like for me and my artwork, I've got like blinders on. I've got like, I don't even, I'm open to it, to criticism and advice, but I'm really have no problem being very focused and motivated to do my own thing.
And you finish a drawing, you can finish them in a few hours,
Well, it depends on the size of the drawing, but certainly not like those big drawings I mentioned earlier. Those took weeks. I mean, they took a long time because I get small chunks. 2 hours here, 3 hours there,
right?
and it's not easy always to jump into a drawing and regain that focus and pick up exactly where you left off. But like I did over the weekend, on Labor Day, I sat down and did a pencil drawing. It was fairly small, but I basically finished the entire drawing, and that was where, that was a really nice experience for me. The immediacy of it, having it, done, and now I'm excited to do the next one because I look at the
Right.
drawing and I go, oh, that was cool. This worked. That didn't work. Okay, let's try it again. And that's how my brain works.
Okay, efficient, very efficient. Well, I like that about you. What do you hope people will get from your drawings? Or is there a message behind your drawings?
That's a hard one. There's not a specific message behind my drawings. There's no illusion in my drawings. I'm not trying to convey any specific message.
Okay.
But what I am doing is I am exploring or examining the core fundamentals of the visual arts: line, shape, color, composition. I'm trying to like push the boundaries of what can be done with those core principles to make a beautiful object. In thinking about this interview, I went back in my past and thought about teachers and classes and experiences that influenced my art a lot. And I recall that when I went to art school, and in high school and in college, late 80s, early 90s, it was a time when at least at the schools I went to, they were sort of old-fashioned in their teaching, and we did figure drawing and still lifes. And I studied color theory, and in the color theory class, you had to mix paints and make colors, and you were graded based on the accuracy of the color matching.
Wow.
And in the first day of drawing 101, we drew, and this is not an exaggeration, the teacher had us draw straight lines for 30 minutes. And then the second half of class, we drew circles for 30 minutes. And in my sculpture class, we had a block of plaster and we had to chisel it into an orb, a perfect orb. And the teacher said, don't try to be cute. If you do a freeform shape, I'm going to fail you. You've got to make a perfect orb. In a way, those assignments I'm still working on. I'm still like trying to draw straight lines and trying to draw circles and trying to chisel that perfect orb. And what I discovered in those exercises is that those are tasks are incredibly hard to do. And when you fail, sometimes interesting stuff happens when one line is a little bit off or
Yeah.
it's not perfectly, the curve is not perfect. And there's some interesting things that happen with mistakes and with chaos. And then how do you rectify them and make them right again? And in a way, I feel like I've been just working on those assignments my whole life, is trying to make things perfect. And then when the accidents happen or the imperfections happen, trying to correct them and trying to pick up the pieces and move on.
It must be challenging because there are the confines of the paper, the dimensions of the paper. So if you have a 15 by 20 or a 30 by 40, however big or however small your paper is, that's what you've got to work with. So if you do, I don't think there are any mistakes in your work, but if you make a mistake and you're looking and you're dealing with those confines of the paper, what do you do if it doesn't, if like what you're trying to draw is not going to stay within those confines? What do you do?
Yeah, there are no mistakes. You know,
Yeah.
I just keep moving. I go, okay, how can I fix this or how can I make it right or it's a constant exploration for me. And I start each work with a set of parameters. Like I decide, okay, I'm only going to use India ink today, or I'm
Okay.
only going to I'm going to work specifically on this size paper. We know in the art world, you can do whatever you want. You can take the paper, you can rip it up, you can dance on it, you can whatever. There
Right.
are no rules. Certainly, I do things and I go, oh, wow, why did I do that? Or that doesn't look good. But then I just see it as a challenge to try to make it right. And I'm constantly assessing and reassessing my work. And over the course of a work, I love it, then I hate it, then I love it, then I hate it. And I put it away, thinking it's terrible. And then I look at it 2 years later and I go, well, that's a great drawing. Or I look at it and go, what was I thinking when I did that? And, it sounds a little cliched, but I don't think about these as individual pieces. I think of these as small parts of one larger piece. Like I'm just continually working on the same thing again and again and again. And it's continually evolving.
Wow. So is India ink your favorite material to work with, or what are your favorite materials to work with?
India ink is great. I love how rich it is. I love these. I'm really in love with these paint pens, although they're limited in their palette. Gouache, which I meant to mention before, is a great paint material, which I'm definitely going to get back into. I bounce around colored pencils. I've done quite a bit of collage in my life. I don't know if I have a favorite really.
You've done collage. Why have I not seen your collages?
Well, you'll have to come back to the studio. Yeah, I've done a lot of collage. In my early and mid 20s, I like was doing a lot of assemblages and yeah, I've
Oh,
done a ton of collage work. Collage work is tricky. You got to really know what you're doing and make sure everything is glued down properly. And, technique is really important with collage.
I will definitely come see those. I want to wrap up a little bit, and I have an interesting question to wrap up with. I hope you find it interesting. If you were granted $1 million for an art project, what would you do?
Wow. I would love to do a huge, large scale mural on the side of a building. I had the opportunity to do a mural on a friend's garage many years ago, and I found it incredibly gratifying and I enjoyed it. I work in construction, I work in building. I love architecture. I'm influenced a lot about architecture, and it wouldn't certainly cost $1 million, but I'd love to take off 2 or 3 weeks or 4 weeks of work and just do a gigantic mural and really
Mm.
plan it out, or not plan it out, but really have time to work on it. And again, it would take a long time because I do like to work alone. So, it would take some time, but that's probably what I would want to do.
Okay, and would you need to plan it out, or would you just be spontaneous and just
It would
start
be
the mural?
it would be a little bit of both. I would set certain parameters
Yeah.
and I might do some preliminary sketches. And then I would start with that as a starting point. And then, often with my work, it's like I said, it's exploratory. It's like I see where it goes and I start responding to the work and improvising as I go.
Hmm. Got it. Well, Mike, this was fantastic. Thank you for guesting on the podcast today. And listeners, please take a look at his images on the Art Dimensions site, which is artdimensionsonline.com. On the home page, click the word artists in the upper right-hand corner and scroll down to Mike's thumbnail. If you click on that image, it will take you to his page with more of his incredible drawings. And also be sure to follow Mike on Instagram. His handle is at 74 underscore drawings. So the number 74 underscore drawings. And you can follow Art Dimensions at Art Dimensions. So before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like the listeners to know about you?
I would encourage everyone to come take a look at my work on Whitney's website and on Instagram. I love making art. I'm so grateful to be in contact with you, Whitney, and to have my art out in the world. I want to share it more, and I love any feedback that I get. So, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for being here. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. If you're feeling extra creative, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts. That's how I expand my audience. And be sure to tell your art loving friends and family about the show. So, to Mike and everyone listening, have a healthy and productive month. And as always, happy creating.